Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today we are looking at the key team news, developments and manager quotes ahead of Gameweek 5. My name is Joe and joining me is a Fantasy Football Scout editor Neale. Neale, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Joe, yeah. Friday night deadline tonight, so we'll rattle through these as quickly as we can because it's got a very short shelf life, this podcast.
Okay, rightio, let's go. Let's start with Leeds because there was some news yesterday which will influence a lot of managers' decisions, but there's rumours today, and now I've seen nothing concrete about these rumours. So anyway, if you can explain away, what's the latest with Leeds, who play Newcastle tonight?
Yeah, in terms of concrete team news or team news that's been fed to us by Bielsa, Bamford's fine. He said he's got no problems. There was, ironically, this also started on social media, this rumour about him having a dodgy hamstring. There was a snippet of an interview he did last weekend where he said his hamstring was pinging or words to that effect. But Bielsa said yesterday he's got no difficulties. They have got difficulties at centre-half. They've got 3 of their 4 centre-halves out. So Strauch, Koch and the other guy, Llorente, which just leaves Cooper and probably Luke Ayling as the centre-halves tonight. Maybe even Calvin Phillips, we've seen him play there before. But as for the unproven rumours, which are doing the rounds today, I'm not sure whether I should give them the oxygen of publicity, but I will mention them just in case they are.
We're getting a lot of chat in the live chat about that at the moment, so that's what they're here for, apparently.
Yeah, the suggestions are that Harrison and Rafinha are doubts. I think Harrison with illness and Rafinha with a muscle problem. We have heard nothing official so far from either club or local media. Now, obviously, with this being a Friday night kickoff, we're filming this at 3. I would stay tuned to your internet browsers and our Twitter account in the next 3.5 hours because there could be something breaking. There could be, for example, the team coach arriving in Tyneside with no Rafinha and Harrison on it. But as yet, all they are at the moment is rumours. Now, team news stuff has come from forums before, but a lot of dodgy stuff has also originated from the internet as well. So there is nothing proven so far about Rafinha and Harrison.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I was having a look at. I was trying to find a source of these rumours because sometimes there's some kind of no smoke without fire kind of element to it, but I couldn't see anything concrete. I couldn't even see anything spurious like some cheeky troll just posting, "Oh, Rafinha's out," and then it just gathering traction as things do on Twitter. But no, I couldn't see anything concrete at all. So I think if you've got Rafinha at the moment, just play it. But as you said, you've got to keep an eye on tweets, keep an eye on what Fantasy Football Scout is saying, and hopefully we'll get some concrete news there. Newcastle, what shape are they in for this?
Not brilliant. Wilson's out. He's definitely going to miss this one. Bruce is a bit sketchy on the details. He isn't going to give a timeline on it. Dummett's also out. Dubravka's still out. Shelby's still out. But they have had a sort of a quadruple boost in a sense in that the Fraser's fit and the 3 lads who got knocks last weekend, so that was Manquillo, Clark and Willock, they're all fine to feature. So fitness wise, that's the news. In terms of what shape we're in as a team, absolutely dire at the moment. So
okay, yeah. So there could be goals in this. you would imagine so. Yeah, it looks like that kind of game. 6 matches on Saturday. Lots of interest in Manchester City against Southampton. That looks a very favourable clash, as well as Liverpool against Palace. Lots of interest, particularly with the captaincy there. So let's start with City. How has Pep been today? He's been cheery, happy, usual laugh a minute itself.
Yeah, you know him very well, Joe. He's been on the back foot a bit because of what he said in midweek about wanting more fans through the gates at the Etihad. As I've just mentioned the team news, I'm just updating this now. That comment did sort of mask the fact that he was complaining about his side being tired, which is never what you want to hear if you own City assets heading into the weekend. We do know that Stones and Laporte are out. They've got muscle problems, so they're definitely out. So you'd think Nathan Ake would step in alongside Diaz, providing, of course, he had a personal bereavement in midweek, Ake, so hopefully he's okay to feature. Those are the only 2 injury updates we knew because KDB and Foden are both back last weekend in the match squad. Both of them appeared in midweek. De Bruyne very, very good against Leipzig. And yeah, that going back to that comment about Guardiola complaining about tiredness. Yes, it was sort of trying to rouse the natives of sorts, but he did need an unchanged lineup from game weeks 2 to 4, and he's had a lot of players away on international duty as well, and then he's had obviously 2 back-to-back games this week. So I would not be surprised if there are numerous changes this weekend.
Okay.
Torres, for example, has had 5 successive starts for club and country just this month.
Okay.
So that's we're only in middle of September. Cancelo, Bernardo, Grealish, they've had 3 successive starts as well for club and country. So these are the types of players I'd be looking at with a little bit of wariness.
Okay, so we could be looking at Jesus maybe up front instead of on the wing?
Maybe, yeah, he was benched in midweek. Same with Gundogan, Sterling, Fernandinho as well. So these type of players, it's never that straightforward in Pep's world. And we've also got an EFL Cup tie coming up midweek, so that gives him an opportunity to rest a few players as well. Could be Jesus. He has been so good on the right. Could be De Bruyne up top. He's played there a lot last season. Sterling is someone he's mentioned before. Hasn't done that as much lately. Foden as well. He's played there before. Bernardo's played there before. So he's got options. Square pegs and round holes, but he has got false nine alternatives to Torres.
My instinct is that he will want to go strong in this. He does keep mentioning about Southampton being good, and lots of people are raising their eyebrows because obviously Southampton are quite good, but they're not sort of City's level. But they have, of course, in the last memory, I think it's the last couple of years away from home, they've really got the better of City. Completely stopped their attack. So he's clearly rankled him.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think, was it the game after the 9-0? They played City, and they put in a much improved performance. They beat them at St Mary's as well. Yes. I think was it Che Adams' goal? Yeah. Ran them close last season as well. I think and that was at St Mary's. They did get beat 5-2 last year at the Etihad, but they put in a really good showing in that game. I think that was a bit of a flattened score really for City. So I can see what you're saying there. Obviously he's got the options to rotate, which won't diminish the quality of the side too much. So I do think there will be changes this weekend. Okay,
and meanwhile, Southampton, let's not forget their team news as well. How are they shaping up for this? Are they okay, fit and ready?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, 2 we already knew about. Armstrong and Walcott, they're still out. Long and Smallbone back in training, but no other news to report injury-wise. Hasenhüttl saying that he's not necessarily going with the same formation as last week. It was a slight tweak, 4-1-4-1. Also mentioned Armando Broja would be ready for a start as well if called upon. So he's trying to keep his cards close to the chest, but he said himself, even if he comes up with a surprise lineup, Pep will figure him out within about 5 minutes of the game kicking off. So what's the point?
Okay. Liverpool against Palace. I'll be captaining Mo Salah, and I'm a very proud owner of Diogo Jota as well. So I wish Bobby Firmino no ill, but I hope he's still injured. So what's the news for Liverpool?
Well, good news for you, and he is still injured. He's not going to feature this weekend. He is back in training next week though. So from game week 6, that's when the jittery week to week nerves kick in. I think again with Jota. Elliott, of course, is out for a long time, and I think he's the only other injury concern they've got because like Milner, I think, came back. Origi's going to be assessed for cramps, but he had his moment in the sun in midweek. Performed well, but obviously he's going to be back out of the side this weekend, you'd think. Klopp talked about rotation more. I think we've seen a settled side. I think particularly in midfield, we've seen this in the past, and he's mentioned this specifically this afternoon. He says if we have a tired midfield, like the engine room he's talking about, then we don't function. So, like Thiago, Milner, Jones could come in to the thinking this weekend, but there is an EFL Cup tie coming up again for rest for key players, but we have seen in the past, just to worry you unnecessarily, that hasn't really factored into his thinking. As soon as a player's been in the red zone, this fabled red zone, he's been out of the side, EFL Cup tie or not. So obviously 2 competitive matches this week already. It's a Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday turnaround, which Klopp said is the toughest one. So there could be 1 or 2 surprises, maybe, perhaps Konate in for Matip, something like that. Media suggestions that he will start one of the next 2 games. So but hopefully for our big guns, the Norwich match in midweek, the Carabao Cup tie, will be the one where they get the rests.
Palace team news is going to be interesting as well. Lots of interest in their attack and defence at the moment. Bad fixture run, but very much on the watch list. An improved Palace side. This is obviously important for those of us that own the likes of Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah as well. So do they go into this in good shape or poor shape?
Pretty much the same shape. Yeah, there's just the same 3 injuries. Eze and Ferguson are the long-term ones. Schlupp still out. He's going to be back next week. No fresh concerns that I've seen so far. I guess the big call is going to be up front, whether he starts with Edouard, who's 2 goals off the bench last week, or Benteke, who much maligned but earned a lot of Vieira's praise last weekend for his all-round work, his link-up plays, off-the-ball contributions. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he got the nod again this weekend, because he's an aerial threat as much as anything else. Liverpool's so good at set plays. He could be as valuable in his own box as at the other end of the pitch. But obviously, long term, Edouard's going to come in for Benteke, and probably like the likes of Elise and Hughes will let another think in the midfield. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an unchanged lineup from last week, given that they hammered Spurs.
Probably this next one probably going to be last on match of the day, but we've elevated it up the ranking order for us. It's Norwich against Watford, and the reason I put him there is because a lot of people have Norwich players like Gilmour, and of course there's Brandon Williams, who they're probably going to have to play this week because of injuries elsewhere. So yeah, I mean Norwich and Watford. Let's give them their moment in the sun. Suddenly, their players are of interest. What shape are Norwich in, and how are Watford?
Yeah, this is 15 seconds of fame on the Team News podcast. They've got Norwich have got Zimmerman still out, Pasha as well still out, but they do have Sargent back. They've got Giannoulis back as well. I think Lys Malou is going to shake off a dead leg. Might not last 90 minutes. I think that's pretty much Norwich summed up. Watford. João Pedro's still not ready. He's building up match fitness after 3 months out. Ben Foster is available, and Kiko Firmino is going to be assessed for match fitness. He's been working with the club on a niggle and muscle problem for the best part of the season. So pretty quiet really all round.
Okay, so Brandon Williams is he going to start? I'm hoping he does. Do you think?
You would think so, yeah. I mean, he arrived. I don't remember saying to you last week or the week before. He arrived at a good time because Norwich had just conceded 5 at City, and 4 of them came from the left back position.
Yeah,
Giannoulis was hooked at half time, and then Mumba got a bit of a tongue lashing from his manager as well. So he's done all right since he's come in, and he's definitely seen as the first choice option there.
Okay. And Gilmour missed out last time, but we think that was mainly due to international minutes, and he should be back.
We think so, yeah. Farke came out afterwards and said he'd played more minutes for him, I think, than anyone. And had been away with Scotland as well, so he did frame it as a minute management.
Okay.
And maybe the fact that Lys Malou's got this dead leg, which might render her unable to complete 90 minutes, maybe that'll see Gilmour back to the side. But not as confident of Neale in a start as I am with Williams, but I do think he'll be back.
So good news there for some potential bench players. Watford as well, just to go back there. The likes of Sarr.
Yeah. Nothing I've seen new, just the ones we already knew about.
Right, yeah, okay. West Ham take on Manchester United. I haven't got a picture for Manchester United. I've gone for West Ham actually, because I found this quite interesting tweet that you put up that you'd got from David Moyes about Vlasic. Yeah, so what's this about? Does this hint at rotation? Because of course they're going to be without Antonio this time around.
Yeah, Moyes was talking about just. By the way, injury news, West Ham are probably the fittest team in the division. They've got no injury concerns, I know, but even Masuaku was back on the bench last night, so that's how good things are. Vlasic was the main quote I picked out of Moyes' post-Europa League presser. And he was talking about where he likes to see him play. Now, he thinks he can play 7, 10 and 11. Now, I have to work out where those positions are. I think that means right midfield, left midfield, and in the hole.
Basically, just anywhere behind Antonio, if he was playing.
Has even played as a false 9 for his country as well, so he could deputise for Antonio. But Moyes was preaching patience with him. He said this was his first game. He's like a long-term investment. Was very, very happy with him so far. I think he's a great lad and all that. But he had his first start last night. I do not think he's going to be starting against Manchester United.
Okay.
Longer term, obviously, a bit of a worry for likes of Ben Rama, but for this weekend, you'd think it'll be Bowen up top. Fornals, Benrahma either side of him. Could be a wing-back system. Moyes played that twice last year against Man United. So might be sort of Cresswell at centre-half with someone like Johnson coming in.
Okay.
But yeah, Vlasic, a medium-term risk, I think, to Benrahma.
Right, yeah, okay. So Benrahma owners can have some relief for this weekend then. Turn to Brighton at Leicester next, because defence is a key issue there, particularly with Brighton. So quite a few Brighton defenders knocking around in people's teams. What has Potter got to say about his ever-evolving team of players?
Yes, we've got news that Byrne's back, so Dan Burn is available. He's been out for a while. Enoch Mwepwa as well. He's been back. He's had, I think he's had COVID. He's been isolating. Adam Webster's out though, so one in, one out at the back. He's going to be out after the October international break. It looks like. What I was seeing this afternoon, which is obviously bad news for him and obviously bad news for the Brighton defence. But does it mean more minutes for Duffy as well? Is that sort of nail him down a bit more? I know Burnley is coming back, but he's been out for so long that you think he'd be sort of eased back in for now. I think that's it in terms of team news.
Pascal Gross out as well. For Brighton.
Pascal Gross is out. Yes, I beg your pardon. Yeah, he's isolating as well. He missed last weekend's game. So he's not going to be involved. Tariq Lamptey's going to be back in the AFL Cup, it looks like. So that's next week. So again, another name to add to the mix. That could, I suppose, indirectly affect Duffy because Veltman is equally accomplished playing centre-half as he is right wing back. So obviously, the more names Brighton get back in defence, the slightly more of a concern it is for Duffy. But he's played very well so far this season, as I'm sure you'll attest.
Well, this segment. If there's any Sky managers watching, this is enormous news because Webster is absolutely hugely owned by Engage managers there, so they will have to probably be looking for a replacement. And Duffy, yes. Long term question marks, but short term you would imagine he would be starting. Yes, you're quite right. I think he's fairly nailed on for the foreseeable, really. Because I don't know. Potter hasn't directly come out and said hold his hands up. I was wrong about him, but Duffy has proven him wrong essentially for loaning him out. So Leicester, issues at the back as well for them.
There are. There always seems to be issues at the back. Evans made his comeback last weekend and then had his first start on Thursday, but was withdrawn at half-time. And then Rodgers said after the game that he's probably going to miss this Brighton match, recurring to the same foot problem. Couldn't push off on it, so I guess it's going to be Vestergaard and Soyuncu again. Perez is still suspended. I think that's his last game. Justin and Fofana are still out as well. We saw the likes of Vardy, Maddison, Tielemans, Soyuncu all benched last night, so you'd think if logic follows that they're going to be back in the side. Barnes played himself into a bit of form as well with a couple of attacking returns. Ricardo Pereira was benched as well, so I wonder if that means he's going to be back in. I think injury forced him out of the equation in the last two, with Castagna coming in, but that's two starts in a week for Castagna now, so I wonder if Pereira's fit enough to feature against Brighton. Iheanacho and Daka got their starts last night too. You'd think they're back on the bench again on Sunday. Yes,
I think their time will come in the league, but it's possibly not quite yet. So let's look at the remaining fixtures. We've got 4 more fixtures to go. Spurs against Chelsea. I've sort of put them because it's a tough one to call, but actually quite a good fixture for Chelsea. But what shape are Chelsea in and Spurs? Have they got anyone left?
It's increasingly looking like a good fixture for Chelsea. They are pretty much fine. Kante's fit. Pulisic is the only one who's out. He's back in individual training, so he should be back next week. So that's it for Chelsea. Spurs, we don't really know who's going to play because it's not just the fact that they were in Europa League action last night, so there isn't a specific press conference for Gameweek 5. It's also that Nuno is the most unhelpful bugger ever since Eddie Howe departed the Premier League. Just doesn't give anything away. He says, I don't know to pretty much every question, or we'll see, or he wasn't sure. So we have flagged Bergwijn, Dyer, Lucas Moura, Ryan Sessegnon and Son. That's with injuries. Tanganga is definitely out. He's suspended. Lo Celso, Romero, and Davinson Sanchez are back in the country tomorrow. They'll have a day of training before Sunday's game. They've been in quarantine, of course, in Croatia. So whether they're going to be match fit enough, we don't know. But all in all, that's what is that 3, 6? I think that's 9 players who are flagged with various doubts. So yeah, it looking like an increasingly good game for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I know people will be asking about Son. We don't know. I think there's rumours about him training with the under-23s or something like that, but I've not seen anything concrete as of 3 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah.
And I suspect we're not going to get anything.
Okay. So those with a Chelsea defender, those with a Chelsea attacker, could be a good day for you.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask as well, as a Christensen owner, and there'll be people out there with Rudiger, Azpilicueta, Reece James. How do you think the back 5, dare I say, would line up for Chelsea?
Chelsea's the last few teams I haven't done yet on my team news tab, so I'll give you that answer within the next hour.
Okay.
James, you think would come back in because he was suspended last weekend? I would think that. Chilwell's still short of match fitness. He got a bit of time off the bench. It's centre half, which looks the trickiest one to call, really, because of Thiago. He was benched in midweek. I guess Rudiger's the one who's kind of next in line for a rest, because Christensen and Aspi have had theirs.
Yeah.
And Christensen, I think, can play on the opposite side as well. So Thiago is obviously that central figure, and then Azpilicueta is the sort of right-sided one. But it is Spurs, and I guess if Suns, now they're not quite the pacey team they are, so maybe pace isn't a requisite for this weekend. But I wouldn't like to call it. I think it's going to be this week-to-week uncertainty.
Okay.
Rudiger, you think, is the most secure, but as we saw last season, second half of last season, not a single member of that Chelsea side is immune to rotation. Everyone will get a bench in at some point.
I think as people are looking going forwards and looking at future transfers, I think a Chelsea double up would be a smart move. I think not just because they're a good defence, because you've got a backup there. You may be unlucky with both of them missing out, but chances are you're going to get at least one defender there, and they are. Their defence is excellent. Villa against Everton. Calvert-Lewin still out.
Yeah, a bit of a sketchy update from Benitez. He said he's going to be out for 2 or 3 weeks, he thinks, but also said he couldn't put a time frame on it. So he's just given us a date and then sort of backtracked on it. I think 2 or 3 weeks is the minimum by the sound of it, and they're going to keep assessing him. 2 problems, of course, he's broken toe and then he's thigh strain. Delph's out as well, a shoulder problem. I think that's it with injuries. Okay. Rodriguez is the ongoing saga. Match fitness, I think, is being cited, but Benitez clearly doesn't like him.
Yeah.
And wouldn't play him.
And Villa, they've got their international players back this time.
Yeah, in the nick of time. I think Martinez and Buendia are going to return tomorrow morning, which is the day of the game. I am right in saying that, aren't I? Is it tomorrow or is it Sunday? It is tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's 5:30, so they've got until the evening.
Martinez, of course, match fitness not an issue for the goalkeeper. Buendia, I would suspect bench duty for him, given that it's not just the fitness issue, but the fact that he hasn't been around for the tactical drills in midweek. Injury wise, not too bad. Davis and Trezeguet, long term ones. Yeah. 2 youngsters are out. Philogene, Bades, and Chuck Wamaker.
Brilliant.
I hope I pronounced those right. I've do my best Paul Merson impression here.
No, you're doing ever so well, better than me.
Thank you. But that's it. I guess now it's how the ongoing issue of how he incorporates Ings and Watkins in the same side. We saw a wing back system last weekend. We've seen a 4-4-2 already as well, with them both in. Smith's poo-pooed the idea of Watkins playing as a winger, but there are variations of that. There's inside forwards. Watkins does drift to the left naturally anyway. So Watkins looked the better of the two actually last weekend. I thought against Chelsea he looked far the livelier, and Ings was hooked midway through the second half.
Just before we mention the last two, just want to give a shout out to some of the people in the live chat. Thanks. Over 1,600 of you have joined us. Do press the like button. And Chris Smith, John Prabesh, Dan Elias, FPL West, Sharif Ali, and Roshan, and many, many more. So I can't name you all because there's 1,600 of you. And but thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks to Chris Smith in the chat for telling people that arrive late that they've missed the Leeds news and to later go and rewind back. So, and also ask people to arrive on time next time. So, well, we've been told there, Chris. Yeah. 2 more fixtures to go. Burnley against Arsenal. How are Burnley and how are Arsenal for this?
Burnley are generally fine. Nothing new. Just backup players. We're talking about Stevens is still out, but Collins should be back amongst it. And Long and Roberts have been playing for the under 23, so they should be back in it. All of those players are backups, really. Arsenal, they've got Xhaka still out. At least he's back from his COVID isolation, so he should be available next weekend. Holden's out and El Neni's out as well. So again, 2 sort of peripheral players there. I guess the only real two lines was one about Thomas Partey. Arteta says he's been in and out of training this week, but wants to play as you would expect. The other one, of course, is about the goalkeeping situation. So Ramsdale come in at a very attractive price in FPL. I'm surprised at that, actually, 4.5 million. Earned rave reviews from his manager and the fans for his not just his performance, but his sort of communication skills as well at the back four. But Arteta sort of stopped short of naming the number 1. I think there will be sort of shared game time between the two.
Okay.
At times, there's rumours that Leno comes back for the North London derby. Arteta sort of dismissed those in his press conference, saying that even I don't know the team for that game yet. But it's still too early to be completely trusting that Ramsdale is the new number 1, as well as he's done.
And Burnley as well. Just anything of interest there?
Yeah, just mentioned that. Yeah, nothing to report there.
Okay. Wolves against Brentford. That's where we end. It could be the end of match of the day. It's certainly the end of the team news today. Any injury news or team developments at Wolves and what about Brentford as well? I saw there were some quotes with the manager praising his attackers, but they're not delivering in FPL terms just yet.
Yeah, he's this was after last week's profligate display against Brighton, and Frank came out and backed Tony and Bemo, saying they're working brilliantly together. I haven't seen much team news from Frank. Actually, he was due to give it at 11 o'clock this morning, but I haven't seen anything come through. I don't think they were expecting anything. They had a pretty much a full squad last week, apart from the longer term ones. Wolves, it's good news, nothing new. So Bruno said this afternoon that they've got no fresh concerns. A squad of 18 all fighting to be involved. Obviously, longer term ones like Johnny and Neto, they're both out, but nothing new to report there.
Brilliant. So that wraps it up. As Chris Smith said in the chat, if you've missed anything, you arrived late, go back and have a look. I'll try and get a podcast version if YouTube lets me. And good luck, everyone, with your game week, which is coming up very soon. Neale, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you have illuminated people's decisions with your team news there. Neale, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Joe. See you next week.